Hi, friends and listeners. This is Lex from the Porch Swing People podcast. In this 50th episode of our podcast, we have a little Q2 recap where we honor all of our guests from episodes 26 to 50, highlighting a tiny little piece of the conversation our guests have brought on to the pod, and sharing our overall gratitude for everyone who has spent time with me and Gibby over the course of our podcast. Before we jump in, I wanted to take a minute to honor a friend of the podcast and a past guest, Alicia, who passed away from pancreatic cancer a couple of months ago. More than anything, Gibby and I want to share our deepest condolences with Alicia's family, friends, and coworkers. I also wanted to take a moment to honor the time that Alicia spent on our little podcast. Last summer, I invited Alicia for an interview, aka a casual chat, on Porch Swing People, this tiny little podcast I do with my dad, where we bring people on and ask them questions that they want us to ask them. Alicia and I discussed beforehand that she could talk about her cancer journey if she wanted, or literally anything else going on in her life, or a mix of both. And she went with a mix of both. And the result was a stunningly honest, beautiful conversation about the person that Alicia is, the things that she has done, and this thing that has happened to her. You should definitely take a listen. Episode 12 of Porch Swing People. I learned a ton. I learned about her natural inclination towards nature, photography, her favorite genre of books, her family's camping trips when she was a kid. She also talked about getting diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and everything after that. And she told us about some of her dreams that she had for the future. We found Alicia to be so brave and courageous for sharing everything that she wanted to share on the podcast. We found her to be so human and so graceful. And we left our time with Alicia feeling very humbled. We learned so much about how pancreatic cancer is affecting young people more and more often. If her story moved you too, check out pancan.org. Find walks in your community that benefit pancreatic cancer patients. And at the end of the day, remember that what we have are each other and our community. Don't take your time with your friends and your family and your community for granted. If you don't have community, reach out to us because we want to connect with you. Gibby and I would love to have a conversation with you. I hope that this message is one of literally countless messages from Alicia's community, honoring the person that she is, lifting up the messages that she had to share, and sharing our condolences with her family. Thank you to our listeners for hearing this message about Alicia. And now let's jump into episode 50, our Q2 recap. Hey, I'm Lex.
And I'm Gibby. Welcome to another episode of Porch Swing People.
And not just any episode. This is our 50th episode. Woohoo!
Woohoo! That was hard for me to do.
Which means that Gibby and I have been doing this for about a year. A little over.
It's been 1 year, a little over a year.
So this is our 50th episode, also known as our Q2 recap. We want to do a little highlight from each episode and just remember and be thankful for every guest that we've had. So without further ado, should we jump in, Gibby?
Yeah, let's do it. I guess we're going with 26.
Yeah, you did the even, so.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Oh, it was good. I was so ready for this joke.
My face is red. It's prickling.
You're like, oh no, I'm in trouble. What am I gonna do?
I have the odds for everyone's essay.
So, here we go.
Let's do it.
Episode 26 was with Lee. We asked Lee to be our first person in our second quarter because her husband Aaron was our first guest in our first quarter, episode 1.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to highlight from Lee's episode was that amazing story of when she was delivering packages and stopped at that person's house way out in the middle of nowhere and
Yeah.
received this blessing from this person and had no idea what this person was saying, but she felt so moved spiritually by it. I loved that story. It still sticks with me.
Yeah. It was a good one. Number 27 was Jason. He is now in Alabama, living the good life. But what I took away from him was just be grateful. He's grateful for every day. His family and his friends, reconnecting with old friends. And, the other thing that he said as far as, for his younger self, try to understand people and what motivates them and what they're trying to do. Don't take from their cup, fill their cup.
Yeah, that was good advice. Episode 28, we had Cody, one of my childhood friends. And the memory that I wanted to highlight was his snow day memory with his brother, where he was getting into all those antics of like piling up the snow over the wall to jump into. And it just reminds me of how kids' brains work and they think that these ideas are so perfect. But as adults, we see them through different lenses. But we had such a great time with Cody.
Yep. Yeah. Our 29th guest was Abby. Abby is one of our big animal lovers. She has lots of animals, horses and dogs. She had a wonderful summer when her pop returned from overseas and did an adventure for an entire 3 months. Whatever she wanted to do, he was not saying no. Her life hack we thought was very funny. Anything and everything can be fixed with acetone.
That's a good one to bring up. Episode 30, Craig, one of Gibby's old coworkers. I loved his advice about overcoming imposter syndrome, particularly within the military, which is what he was talking about. And he gave this story of act like you belong because you belong, and that's it. And maybe what you have to contribute is different than senior leadership, but that doesn't mean that you don't belong. He had great things to say. Definitely should go check out that episode.
Yeah. 31 was Paul, my cowboy buddy. I love this guy. You talk about somebody with gratitude and appreciation for life. That's the guy. And I think the one thing that I see it all the time, he just loves to help people. And anytime that he can help people, lift people up, that's what he's doing. And I think the best thing is he says, I don't have bad days. I just have better days than others.
Yeah, that's good. Episode 32 was with Tracy, one of my old coworkers. You might remember, Gibby, that Tracy kept giving these great stories about her father from childhood. And she said, I have another. And you're like, well, now we need another. So she was just kept adding these stories.
Yep.
And they weren't anything that had to be too grand, like the weekly trip to the dump, remember? And then they would go get their ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yeah. And so those are the stories that mean so much to us here on the Porch Swing.
Number 33 was Susan. Susan spent the morning on our podcast, and it was actually her anniversary. So she gave up a little bit of time and stayed with us on the porch for a little while. It was really nice. The takeaways from her is discipline, and you can tell, but it's not discipline where you beat yourself up. It's give yourself some grace, have discipline, and connect with people. In fact, I love the story, and Dave, you'll find out, was one of our guests later on, if you haven't heard yet. She was doing one of her classes in a park, and she was looking at the people that were participating, and in the back was this guy, and she said, "Sparks flew." Knew immediately.
Yes. Love
yes.
that story. Episode 34 was with Rich, another one of Gibby's old coworkers, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I had to pick two here. First of all, I could not get over his fear of snapping turtles as a child. where he, after that one encounter where luckily somebody saved him,
Yeah.
he never got into the water because he just imagined all these snapping turtles at the bottom waiting for him. Oh, but then also he had some very cool stories, including skydiving into a Santana concert. And that
Yeah.
was just one. Okay,
He's a
so
rock
if you
star.
haven't
Yeah.
heard it, yeah, you need to go back and listen to that one.
Yeah. Number 35 was Homer, a longtime friend from my very, very young youth. Um, the cool story that Homer in college, hanging out with one of his buddies, buddy says, "Hey man, I gotta go meet my dad. He's visiting. I just want to see him for a couple minutes." He shows up, they split up, and his dad was with some other guy that was dressed in a suit, very distinguished. And so Homer and this guy is standing there and they start talking and just comfortable conversation. He thought it was odd, and Homer was struggling a little bit in school, not with grades, just
The
his
path,
trajectory.
his
Yeah,
path,
what's
yeah.
he's going to do? And this guy said, maybe you need to change your path, your major, and go with something that you have interest in. And that guy ended up being George Senior Bush, which is
Hmm.
totally cool. He had no idea until later on.
I know, so good. Episode 36, guest Lex, myself.
Oh yes, you're gonna do yourself.
I
Oh
got,
my gosh,
I got that one. But I wanted to just highlight that we had such an amazing co-host, Kristen,
Kristen. Yeah,
also former guest. And we appreciate her so much for taking that opportunity to join Gibby as host and ask some of the questions that I picked out for myself. So that was a really fun time. And I'm looking forward to scheduling Gibby's episode coming up here.
yeah. Number 37 was Denise, a classmate. She was the student body president, and of course, your mother was the class president. She has loved her path from college all the way through her career. She said she has been so lucky and humble with all of her friends and people that she met. But she did tell the story of our class float, our senior class float. Just to, if you guys haven't heard it, it's funny, but I'll go ahead and spoil the story. As
Spoil it
freshmen,
with one word.
it ended up with a toilet on our float.
Yeah, you got to go back and listen to that one.
Yeah.
Episode 38 with Beth, another childhood friend of mine. Something that she didn't talk about on the pod is that she is a very accomplished dancer. And she could have chosen probably an incredible amount of fantastic dance related stories. But instead, she brought on a plethora of stories from childhood, stories from motherhood, stories from careers that she sought out, and had a very big mixture of stories to tell, advice to give, and things to reflect on. So we loved our time with Beth. And my one highlight is that if you see some velvety fuchsia pumps at the store and they're calling your name, you might as well get them. Right, Gibby?
Yep. Get him. Number 39, Frank. When I say a longtime friend, classmate, I probably have known Frank longer than anybody that I can recall other than my little brother. We go all the way
Wow.
back. Yeah. I affectionately know Frank as our class historian. We graduated high school with each other. He remembers everything. But his big passion, and for the most part in life, is health, working out, and then his horses.
Good priorities. Episode 40 with Josh. I loved our time with Josh because it was an amazing mixture of being very philosophical, but also being very light and fun. Like here we are talking about works of art that really impacted his childhood and young adulthood, but then at the same time, we're talking about Barbie Girl and 90s skating rinks. And I wanted to highlight, kind of to put it all together, his dream trip of where he wants to go. And I said, "You should go." And he said, "Not until the end, because this is my conclusion trip of my life. It's going to wrap it all together." And I found that to be very poignant.
Number 41, Michael. I think we both know Michael fairly well. my son, your brother,
Our podcast musician.
our podcast musician, and our last of 3 trial
Yeah,
episodes. Yeah, he helped us out. He was actually the very first one to help us out, and he did not judge us. He was like, he said a couple things like, hey, you might want to try this, but he was
very helpful.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the one thing he has true passion, and the thing that he could talk about forever was, do you recall?
Music theory.
You two, I wasn't even in the podcast. You guys were on it, and I loved it. It was really cool, the communication you guys were doing. It was really nice to have Michael on the podcast again.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Episode 42 with Justine. Gibby, you remember that amazing story that Justine told us about her and her friends getting lost in the Montana wilderness?
Yes.
Something small like that can go awry really quickly.
Number 43 is Carl. Carl was one of my mentors as in my adulthood, really appreciated him coming on our podcast. A lot of surprises. Grew up as a sheep herder boy in his youth, had been in a couple movies after his retirement. I mean, he's just full of surprises during his episode. The takeaway was, in all of his travels, people are just people, and they just want to live our happy lives.
Yeah. Episode 44, Aaron gracefully joined us and had many amazing things to talk about. One thing I wanted to highlight was how meaningful bicycles were to her, and that's not it's not just her. Bicycles are very meaningful to lots of people for lots of different reasons. For some people, it's their only mode of transportation. For some people, it's their first feeling of freedom in childhood, like it was for Aaron.
Independence. Yeah.
Mhm. She just talked a lot about the power of the bicycle, and I really appreciated that.
45 was Sydney. Yeet.
Yee.
Yeet. She's a young veterinarian, and she told about the journey of how she got to that.
Mhm.
Sydney was a delight.
Episode 46, Brent, another childhood friend of Gibby
Mm-hmm.
and lifelong friend, still best friends. One of the things that really I related to was how surreal his experience was watching a recent solar eclipse, because I also talked about that on my podcast episode.
Yes, you did.
I think anyone who has gone through that experience, it kind of changes you. Obviously, it meant that he made space for that on his short episode. I really appreciated that.
Number 47, Dave. Dave being the husband of Susan. Dave was full of laughs, full of stories, did his time in the service. Afterwards, he's been trying to help servicemen that have gotten out, trying to get them to get their way through the VA for if they need help, financial help and physical help. He also has a YouTube channel. It's the Seattle Black Veterans. You guys should tune into it. I listened to a couple of his episodes. I did. They were really nice.
Cool.
Very informative.
I love that. And then episode 48, also Dave, because we turned his episode into another two-parter, our second two-parter. One thing that Dave mentioned in episode 48, Dave Part 2, was the power of walking, something that we've had multiple guests talk about in our 50 episodes. I wanted to highlight that because, a walk doesn't need to be anything special. It can be a walk down to the mailbox. It could be a walk around the block. It could be, I don't know, miles and miles if you want it to be. If you can, why not? Right, Gibby?
Get moving. And number 49, my cousin, Sean. Sean had a very interesting journey.
Yeah, we had a great time talking with Sean. Loved the things that he brought onto the pod as well. So that is episode 26 through episode 49, bringing us rounding up to episode 50. What do you think, Gibby?
Still having fun with my co-host.
Good. I guess we'll try for another 25, shall we?
It has been awesome connecting with all of our guests. All of them have an interesting story. It's their journey, and that's what our podcast is about.
You're so right.
Cheers to another 25. I guess that's another episode. Porch Swing People, out.
Porch Swing People is recorded and produced by Lex and Gibby. Opening music was written and produced by Michael Gibson. Porch Swing People is a podcast featuring everyday people. If interested in being a guest, email us at porchswingpeeps@gmail.com.